Hi guys, so today we're going to be taking a look at some of the best moments of Maniacs. One of the things I've enjoyed the most doing the Maniacs stream is everyone's story as to how they got into their microcomputers, the initial introduction and even what brought them back to it many years later. And I've done streams with some great YouTubers, which I'm sure you'll all agree. So I decided to get them best parts, put them all together into a compilation video. So without further ado, let's roll it.
And it's this. So I'm sure everyone will be interested. I know I will be. What got you into micros, Scott?
So is this what got us back into micros back when we were nippers or back into it sort of like in the hobby?
I'm thinking more when you first got one.
First got one is my dad. My dad was like really into Sinclair Spectrums. He didn't buy one until the rubber key, the 48K. We never had the ZX81. He went straight for the 48K. And I can remember it vividly because I think I'd had a fight at school or something bad had happened at school and I was upset. And I can remember my mum saying, "You wait until we get home. That's really going to cheer you up." And when I got home, my dad had this Spectrum 48K set up in the living room on like a writing desk. I'll never forget that desk because me and my sister used to sit under it and pretend we was in a car. I can just remember him playing a game called Jumping Jack, where it's literally a matchstick man running across the bottom of the screen and you have to jump.
Oh, hang on. Paul's dying.
I know, sorry. I am a bit under the weather. I have been for ages, man. I'm just trying to shake off this virus or whatever. So, yeah, I might be coughing and spluttering away a bit.
But, yeah, no, the first game I ever see was Jumping Jack, which was extremely basic. You had to play it on keyboard, if I remember, as well. There was no joystick control. And then my dad put in a game, 3D Death Chase. And then that was
Great game.
Completely and utterly mesmerised by that game. Yeah, a fantastic game.
Do you know what I love?
15K game, isn't it?
Yeah, it's. But here's the weird thing, though. This has been released, so I'm sure with like 3 or 4 different covers.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is quite a later one. This is the Zeppelin Games release. But yeah, I'm sure it's the 48K, and it's amazing what they can actually do with that.
It's crazy. It's such a playable game, and I still play it.
Yeah, still is now. Still is now.
It's a really good game. So that's my first sort of like memories, and from seeing Death Chase, that was it. I was hooked then. Spectrum was in my life for many years, and after that.
Right. I like that. Although it was Spectrum. Oh, have we lost Scott now?
I think what will be a running debate is that
He's back.
even though I had the Spectrum in my household, I had uncles that had Commodore 64s. My best mate that lived up the road from me had an Amstrad. My other best mate, he had a Commodore 64. So we got the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, I mean, I had a mate that had a 48K, but I didn't really have much to do with that. But that's probably because I had the C64 and I knew it was better. But
Oh, that's an early blow.
Don't worry, Lee. We'll educate you.
Right, okay, Paul, what got you into micros?
So I was always quite an outside kid. I used to like playing football, and I was never in the house playing games. I had no interest whatsoever. But being in the northeast, the weather isn't always that great, and I remember absolutely lashing down this day, and we've been playing football. I went into my mate's house, and he was like, "Oh, my dad's got the computer set up," and I was like, "What's a computer?" And I'd seen the Pong sort of thing, and I just thought it was just absolutely shite. I was like, "Nah, that's not for me. Not interested." And he's like, "Oh yeah, we've got a computer like a couple of years ago." He's like, "He's set it up for us in my bedroom." And I was like, "Belter." So he goes upstairs, and his dad was playing. I'm pretty sure it was Impossible Mission. And it was the first time I'd heard, or Possible Mission 2, it was the first time I'd ever heard digitized speech.
Yeah,
and I was like, I was like, I was like, can we listen to that again? He's like, no, like, because you know it's unlimited lives, isn't it? So you've got to run out of time. There's like a time limit to the game, and oh my god, like it was just, I just loved that game. And then we played Platoon, which then that was the first time I really like heard the synth chip, the music, because obviously it was a Commodore 64, and I was just like, this is just absolutely amazing. Like I need one of these, and. Obviously I went home and absolutely badgered the hell out of my parents, and I didn't get one because I think it was quite close to Christmas, so I had to wait till the Christmas after. So obviously basically every night for that whole year I spent in my mate's house playing on the Commodore 64. And my first ever game that anyone ever got us was He Give Us Golf, which is a cartridge game. So obviously I've got that again now. That was the first game he gave us that. And another one which I've just bought actually. Oh, I came the other day, but I can't remember where I put it.
Did Gore have speech, Paul?
No, it was just like.
I remember it in the arcade. You talk about speech, and I'm just like, I remember hearing Gorf and them sort of games in the arcades, and hearing that synthesized speech.
Proper, like, yeah,
like, wow.
But nah, it's I think. Because that was like I think that was like an 81, 82 game. So that
was also on the VIC-20, that was as well.
Yeah, it was right on launch, so it was like really early in the life of the computer. So that was it. I was just around his house. We just used to play Commodore 64 all the time. Like the amount of hours that we must have put into Platoon. Like just trying to get off the first level. We only go on the tunnels like twice, you know. But yeah, that was it. And I was hooked.
Nice.
Yeah, that was me up until the PlayStation 1, basically.
So you had it all that time?
Yeah, it wasn't until I joined the army and the PlayStation 1 was out. I'd left it all at home and my mum gave it to my brother and that, and he wasn't really bothered because he had a PlayStation. I mean, are you going to play on a Commodore 64 or a PlayStation? Let's be brutally honest here.
Yeah.
So, especially at the time when one's new and one's like 15 years old or something. So, yeah, I don't know what happened to it, and obviously I'd left home and what have you, so it was gone.
It's only when you get older that you really appreciate it, isn't it? I found that out.
Well, if you ever ask the question, what got you back into micros, then
that's a very different question. Well, I think we've all got stories for that one.
Maybe we'll add that one straight after this then. Right, Si, what's your story?
Me, pretty much it was again from my dad. I've got 5 brothers, if you know what I mean. So the phrase that was always used in my house is if I've got to buy one, I've got to buy 5. So we never had the money to buy new computers or stuff like that. Until one day my dad just brought a box out the loft and went, well, I remember buying this before he went into the Navy himself. And it was a ZX81. And it was I'm sure it was a 48K, the plus, you know, the one with the actual keys. And he just set them all up. I mean, it was fun setting it up with him and like seeing the passion that he had. What's that? Just you coughing?
No, you say that's the plus because it had keys. Did we expect it didn't even have?
No, you know what I'm talking.
This is ridiculous. Obviously, the Commodore 64 is better.
Well, the ZX81 really didn't have keys, did it? To be honest, the cheapness. But yeah, it was just setting it all up with him and everything else. I remember we used to have it set up in like a little conservatory bit, so it's sort of like we loaded up the games. We were in there playing the games with my dad, and that's pretty much all we had until we got the Amiga 94, if you know what I mean. So you know what I mean. We just that's all we played on. I didn't even know that. I didn't know anyone with like a console or anything like that. All I knew was the Spectrum. My cousin did actually have the Amstrad CPC with the green screen, so that's the only other computer I knew about at the time. So, yeah, that's pretty much what got me into it. Is my dad and seeing the passion that he has had with it, and it's just passed on to me.
Yeah, no, I get that. When you do your videos, there's definitely a lot of nostalgia there. I get why now.
Definitely, I couldn't pinpoint one game. I couldn't pinpoint. You know what I mean? I remember my dad sitting there trying to code on the ZX81, and we were there as a kid. It seemed like forever. And he was putting all this code in, pressed a button, and all I saw was a line go across the screen. I was like, yeah, Dad, that's great. But he really enjoyed it. He remembers buying it and coding back when it came out. So that passion sort of passed on to me, really.
Nice though when you have memories like that, though, I think. Right, okay, so my one is a bit of a story. So I don't know if any of you have seen my video on this, but if you haven't, my one, how do I put this? It was probably glowing. Yeah. So basically what it was, as a nipper, I was about, 10, I think, at the time. I lied about my age so I could do a paper round. And it was one of them ones, we used to deliver 3 newspapers.
Yeah.
Like, you had to deliver ridiculous amounts, like 200 or 300 newspapers for a few.
How many did you dump?
Actually, no, I didn't. But I did at one stage, and this was why I lost the round in the end. I was putting 2 through each door to get rid of them quicker. So I did do that. But yeah, so what happened was that was my only way of getting money, because obviously at that point we was a 1-parent family. So, and a mate across the road whose dad, let's just say, was away a lot, which was code for in prison. He had this Commodore 64, and at the time I knew nothing about them. And he was going over there and playing on them, and he had the monitor, the bread bin, the printer, the disk drive, loads of let's say backup games. So loads of it. And for some reason he was selling it, and it was for a stupid price. I forget how much. I think it was about 50 quid, something like that. And so I badgered my mum, and she said, well, it's your money. If you want to get it, and it didn't really, I didn't really figure it out at this point. So
did you
I
get the
bought it.
off that, Lee, or did you?
Yes.
Or was it, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but you'll see why though.
Oh, but I mean, I've got an idea.
Yeah. So anyway, a little while later, his dad went away again, literally. And it's only when I got older that I realised that this thing was probably nicked out of somebody's house. So, because it was burglary that he was always getting put away for. So some poor sods, probably a kid, probably had this robbed out of their house, and somehow it ended up in mine when I bought it. So yeah, it was funny how he disappeared for probably about 3 or 4 months after I'd bought it, and he seemed to be in a real hurry to get rid of it. So you don't think of this at the time, do you? It's only when you get.
I tell you what, though, he must have had time stealing that to take the monitor, the printer, the disk drive. Yeah, that's not a light thing to pick up and take, is it?
I'll tell you a story about this guy. Right, this guy was blatant. Yeah, he got arrested at Christmas one year because he walked into Halfords, picked up. You remember them big BMX scooters you used to get? Mm. He just picked one of them up and walked out with it. And he got nicked for it and put away. And he nicked that for his son for Christmas. So if you think about it like that, if someone's just going to walk into Halfords and just walk out with that, they're going to hang around and take the whole lot, aren't they? So yeah, he was pretty.
Yeah, your dodgy dealings.
Not mine.
I was going to say, I think you got a steal personally.
Literally. Yeah, I could have got done for handling stolen goods probably as well. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Any comments in the chat, because I can't see any of them from this side.
I was just about to look at that, funnily enough.
I've always sort of had computers because my brother was about 7 years older than me, so he would have got a computer when he was younger. So our first computer was a VIC-20. What did that come out in 81? So I would have been 1. So yeah, I just have computers around as long as I remember. And we had it connected up, to a portable black and white telly, with the little wire aerials, the crappy ones. So I loved it though, I absolutely loved it. We used to spend hours playing Super Vaders and Bomberman and all them. And then Christmas 1984 or 85, we got the Amstrad. Oh God, it was bloody brilliant. That was like the best Christmas ever. And you got the Amsoft 12-pack, and we just spent all Christmas holidays playing them. As a 4-year-old, I thought they were great. I thought, bloody brilliant this.
What was your favourite one?
I liked Roland in the Caves
Aye.
and Harrier Attack.
Oh,
I know
I'm so glad you said
Mummy.
that. I was going to say Harrier Attack is just like, you should just hammer that space bar. It was great.
It's bloody brilliant. And those games, even my mum and dad liked playing things like Old Mummy and that. Do you know what I mean? And my parents weren't interested in gaming. So, yeah, we had the green screen. But like I said, I was buzzing with that because our VIC-20 was on the black and white portable, so green screen. I mean, that was like colour to me. Do you know what I mean?
Got
Bloody
one
hell.
colour at least, yeah.
Yeah. It's got like different shades of green. It's a step up. But yeah, so that's how I, got into it. And I had my Amstrad. It just stopped working about 1994. So I had a good 10 years out of that. And I was using it for the whole 10 years. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, we never bothered getting another computer after that. I was sort of got into the consoles a little bit. But then like years later, probably about 5 years ago now, I was just sort of looking at, been talking, I think, about different games with somebody, and I thought, I'll just Google them and, look at old videos and that, see if there's any, costs there's bloody millions, and do you know what I mean? And then I just sort of gradually started joining people's streams and got talking. And then they were on about emulation. I thought, why did I not know about emulation? And I thought, bloody hell, I couldn't literally play any Amstrad game I want. So that was it, yeah. Sort of rediscovered it. And, yeah, playing all those old games that I used to love. You look back at them now and you think, God, they were crap, really, weren't they? Some of them. But, and you're thinking, did I spend that long playing that? But sometimes even the crap ones got their own sort of charm, haven't they? Because you've got all the memories that go with it.
It's the nostalgia.
Nostalgia. Yeah, it's a powerful drug.
It's the expensive one.
Yeah, it is.
Right, Martin, same question to you, my friend. What got you into micros initially and then also later on?
I mean, fairly similar in that they've always been around. I've had computers in the family forever. Luckily, my dad was into it. And so, I can remember earliest was the ZX81, Spectrum ZX81, and playing some text-based games on that. Super young when that was around. We then moved from that to the Commodore 16. I have vivid memories of playing Kickstart on that just over and over again. The music, I could sing it now. The music's so ingrained in my brain from the Kickstart, the game. And then I got the Night Moves pack. I remember that with the owl on the front, getting that for Christmas. Obviously that was the Commodore 64. Getting the disc drive for it, which I thought was just mind blowing when you had this disc drive in your house that you could pop big old floppy disks in. And then just carried on. I was always doing compute. Like I knew I was going to work in technology. I knew I was going to work in computing from those days. So I always made sure I had the latest and greatest machines as and when they came out. So that eventually meant going onto Amiga, and then of course onto PCs when they first started to be a thing, and so on and so forth. So yeah, it was. But I kind of then there was like a 25-year gap between owning one of these things and meeting up with you guys through this community, the retro community, meeting Paul, and then talking about a C64, and then just getting hold of one from him. And it was super weird, right? Because I actually picked up one of the C64 minis from a boot fair for £1. Right, the guy didn't know what it was. He thought it was a toy.
That is crazy. £1.
Yeah, but the weird thing is when I brought that home and plugged it in, it was, I've got a C64 Mini. That's nice. It's got all these preloaded games. It didn't have anywhere near the impact that the day that one I got from Paul got delivered here, and I plugged it in, fixed all the problems that Paul had.
Fixed it. Never live that down.
Tell us more.
Yeah, we can get into that. But genuinely, when I plugged that thing in on the table behind me, and flick the rocker switch, thinking I haven't done that in 30 years. Like really weird little things, like plugging the tape drive in and turning it on for the first time, putting a tape into the tape deck, and the sound of clicking it down. All of these weird memories just started rushing back, and for me, so you talked about that tape cart a minute ago. It does nothing for me. This for me now has to be the physical. I'm all about, if I'm not interacting with it in a personal way, I don't care about digitally loading things. I don't care about any of that stuff. It has to be, I have to have the tape or the disc. I have to be putting it in the machine. I have to be turning it on. I have to be using a joystick. I have to be using the joystick I had when I was a kid. So I went on eBay and found the exact one I had when I was a child. It is, for me, it's all about not just the playing of the games, but the tactileness of it, the sounds of it, just the interacting with it is where I didn't know it would drum up all the feelings it did, but it did. And now I'm totally hooked. Like now I'm back there again. I'm back being a 8-year-old kid playing with this machine. So, I've said it a million times, but thanks to Paul for helping me get there and get one. Minus the dodgy keyboard and the other bits.
Honestly, like just watching you start that journey, and it made me remember what it was like when I first got mine back. Like I could see it, and then you discovered homebrew, and I remember buying all this and like playing the homebrews for the first time, and it was just a massive rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome.
Yeah,
I did enjoy that video you did, Martin, when you did that. Like, because when you was saying about putting the tape in and pushing it down and the click of the tape deck, and it was like you could feel it. You could feel the emotion, It was a really good video.
It's things you haven't. It's not just the playing the games. The nostalgia is in the whole process. The whirring of that tape rewinding to the point that it goes click and the button pops up and it's done. Like it's silly little things that catch you that you just haven't done for 30 plus years, and you're like, oh yeah, like I said, I had to get the I can't remember what disc drive it is, the 1541D. I can't remember, but it has to be the one with the lock on the front. The sort of flip down catch that holds the disc in.
I've got the older ones.
Yeah, because for me that's the one I had, and even locking the disc in is like, that is the feeling I should have when I put the disc in. And for some people, I know it sounds probably very weird. Yeah. Sorry, Rach.
So it's the whole ritual of loading the games, isn't it? From the minute you open the case.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
I mean, it's the thing. I mean, I've got the tape card, but I do still load up tapes, because like you say, it's like when I did a premiere recently with the two boys, and they hadn't played on the Commodore 64 at all, and I've had it now for quite some time. And so I thought, well, let's do it how I did it back in the day, load a tape up. And it was funny, like if you've watched it, just watching my eldest boy Kyle trying to put the tape in the tape deck, he looks so uncomfortable doing it because he just doesn't know how it goes, But
press play.
When he went to push play, he thought it was more like a touch button, not a physical push it down, to us guys it's funny to watch, but of course it's all alien to them, isn't it? They've got no idea.
And even things like where you said loading it is super fast when you're using an SD card reader or something like that, and totally for convenience that's amazing, right? And the fact you can store thousands of games is brilliant. But I genuinely love the fact that the game takes a little while to load. I get to open up the case, have a look at the little manual inside, read what my controls are, listen to some of them when they put music on. It's amazing. Or when they've put Space Invaders in the load screen. Like these are things that you don't do now. Yeah. Exactly.
Brilliant.
Exactly. You don't get to do that now. Now you stick your game in and it's on and you're playing, and you probably skip past the start screen. You skip past everything to get the immediate gratification of playing the game. Where back in our day, and I sound like a really old man, that it was the ceremony of it. It was the going through all of the little bits, and I absolutely love it. That's it.
Martin,
the games don't seem to take. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, after you.
I was going to say that I remember the games taking ages to load, but started buying the actual physical games again, and they don't seem to take as long as I remember. Actually,
no.
Funnily enough, I thought it'd be the other way around, but
I think it's just when you're a kid, anything seems like a long time, don't it? Like you think when you're at school, the whole time you're at school seems like a long time. You come out of school, you're an adult, you start working. the same amount of years go by and it goes like that. But when you was at school, it took ages. You know,
Yeah.
I think it works that
yeah,
way with everything. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
Next thing you know, you find you're buying old computers.
yeah,
Yeah. And the chef just put it in the chat, but I mean, for me, the music on a Commodore 64 blows my mind. It is just
That's my
amazing. It is,
nostalgia.
I don't care if I'm a fanboy. It is amazing. I could listen to it as music. It's just so good. I just absolutely love it. Every time I put a game on, some of them just absolutely just kill me. It's just so good.
Yeah. I was going to ask, have you ever, when you've been loading a game and Invader Load comes on, have you ever cheekily pressed stop on the tape just to enjoy a good game of Invader Load? Because it used to be on my version of Tau Ceti, and I remember sometimes I was really looking forward to playing it, and then I got into Invader Load and I was like, oh, I can't be asked playing the other game, so I used to press stop.
I didn't actually know you could do that, but now I do.
Oh, yeah.
So there we go.
Oh, I used to love Invader Load. Brilliant. I think
I got an achievement the other day because I managed to clear a screen whilst it was loading. I was like, yes, that's it. I've done it. I've done it. Full screen clear.
What game were you playing, by the way?
Oh,
For that
what
to
was
come
it?
on? It's normally on like Mastertronic or Ricochet, I think, or
I can't remember which. I can't remember which one it was. I was playing a bunch on the stream the other night. It might have been that Scumble one. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, one of them.
I wouldn't mind like trying to get all the different ones with Invader Load on. I think
Yeah, I'll find out which one it was because it'll be on the stream. I can look back.
It's cool to think to collect, you know, because there's not that many who've got it on really.
Yeah,
we've got a lot of conversation about the SID chip now. I mean, Generation Pixels put. Now they won't shut up about the SID chip.
And rightly so. Yeah,
the music on the Amstrad's surprisingly good. Like it's better than what I was expecting when I played it for the first time. Like so, especially on like the homebrew games I've been playing recently. Like the music on the Amstrads, it's been all right. Like it's been decent.
Yeah. Best music. That's my favourite game, and the best music ever is on them. Got it here. I don't know if you can see it. Feud. Oh, I love that game, and the music's brilliant.
Right, I've got to bring this.
Amstrad got its own version, wasn't the Spectrum part for once?
Oh, that's good to know.
It was always good when they've done that, when they bothered.
So I've had to bring this comment up again because I do think this needs some explanation, some context here. Sorry, Paul. So come on, Martin, tell us what happened when you got the Commodore 64 from Paul.
I feel terrible for telling him, but when the Commodore 64 turned up, and I was extremely excited, and obviously Paul had done his due diligence and checked that it was a fully working machine for me. You know, I trust him; he knows what he's doing. So I
literally test it before I put it in the box as well. That's the worst thing about it.
I get it home, I plug it all in, I turn it on, and I of course go to type load, you know, and the whole command, and I'm pressing the L key, and a J's coming out. I'm pressing the whatever. Every key I pressed, a different key come out, or no keys come out, and I was like, oh man, I've got to do this awkward phone call where I've got to ring the guy. Done me a huge favor in getting me a machine for a really good price. And he's going to feel awkward. I already feel awkward. So we had this whole thing, and Paul's like, it'll be fine. Yeah, obviously if it's bad, send it back, but I've checked it, mate. I take the case off thinking, well, at least have a look. And it turns out that Paul had just missed the first couple of pins when putting the keyboard connector onto the board.
I need glasses. What can I say? I mean, this is actual proof that I need glasses.
So all the keys had basically shifted to the left a little bit. So that's why it gone wrong. So I could reconnect that and reconnect the LED, and we were away. We were all good. You know, but yeah, it was funny because it was just, you know, it's like when you buy something from a friend, the last thing you want to do is go back and go, oh mate, you know, and we haven't known each other very long either, so it's that whole awkward thing of.
Oh, I'm glad it worked out. I was like, I couldn't understand, because what I'd done before I packed it, I thought I'll just check it one last time, and I put the diagnostic cartridge in, and you've got to like disconnect the keyboard, and you get like different ribbons to plug in to different ports on the motherboard. Then you do a full test, and I was like, right, I'm definitely happy with it. Took all that apart, and then obviously when I put the put it back together and I put the keyboard on. Oh.
Sod's law, isn't it? That's what it is.
Of course.
Retro Skelly's just reminded me. I think it was Joe Blade 2 that had the Invaders. Load Invaders.
Right.
Oh, that's right. You played it on the
Blade
stream,
2.
didn't you? Yeah.
When was that? Oh, was that the one I literally come in like at the end?
Yeah. You was like, "Hi guys," and we're all putting good stream. Right.
You should go back and watch it, Paul. It's really good.
I'm going to watch it again, especially if there's Invader Load on there. I do. It's great. I'll have to. So, was it a player's version, or you won't know, will you? What type it was?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was.
I can't remember.
I'll have a look. I'll find out which one it was.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Well, what's this one? Hang on. Oh, it keeps jumping as I go to click on it. Combat School, Daily Thompson, Hyper Sports, loved all of them, but these are joystick killers. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. You didn't want to have a cheater joystick playing these, did you? Because it would definitely kill a cheater joystick, wouldn't it? Like, I hated them joysticks with a passion. They were rubbish. You know, game like that would definitely finish one of them off. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that is now the only thing I'm after really for the C64. It's the holy grail of the Terminator 2 joystick. That's the one I had. I have to find that joystick again. And
remind us, Martin, who makes that joystick?
Doesn't matter who makes it. It was the best joystick in the world for my 8-year-old self. So
enough said.
Hopefully, it's going to turn up on Swap Shop. That's the hope. That's the plan. That someone's going
to. Yeah, take it away, Russ.
Oh right, yeah. Well, mine's more interesting because I'd never actually owned any of these systems when I was younger. I only got my introduction to micros through friends at school. Most of them had Commodore 64s, which is where my affiliation really lies, because that's what I played most of. Didn't know very many people at all with Spectrums, which is really surprising. The only time I can remember playing on the Spectrum was at a friend's house before his birthday. It was his birthday. We were going out to watch Rocky IV at the cinema. That's how long ago it was.
Wow.
And I remember seeing he got the Spectrum set up. I thought I was really interested. Wow, that's different, you know. But my introduction was a friend of mine. He had a Commodore 64, and we used to pile around there all the time, and that was it. And I'd grown up with the 2600. So it's a complete departure from that. Obviously, complete difference in graphics and sound and the way you play the games and the way they were loaded. You know, cartridge 2600, you bang it straight in. With the 64, you put the tape in, you press play and all that stuff. And but I just remember it's like, wow, this is great. You know, this is the next level. Of course, I immediately wanted one and never got one. But for probably about 4 years, from about 1985 to about 1989, that's how I got my introduction to microcomputers. And then when I did actually get a computer at the end of the day, it was actually an Amiga, so we sort of jumped that generation from there. But I've always regretted never having one. And never met anybody with an Amstrad either. That was weird, because Spectrum was there, but I didn't see much of it. Amstrad, I saw him in the shops, but that was about it. And then great times playing on those games, because we were big sports. You know, when we were kids, we were really into our football and cricket. We used to play cricket a lot. So there was a game on the 64 called Graham Gooch's Cricket, which we used to play forever. You know, just not very exciting to play something like that, but we would just play those games. We played leaderboard, we used to like a bit of golf, and there was all the big arcade games that we did. And around that time, I was getting into arcade games, and I think I played the 64 version of Outrun first before I played the arcade game, which is weird. I think so. The timelines might be a little confused there, but I remember playing on the Commodore 64 thinking, this isn't very good, and then played it in the arcade. I thought it's a completely different game.
Yeah.
You know, it's terrible. It's a terrible conversion. Mine most were anyway. But that was it. So about 5 years there, just living out these great games on my mate's Commodore 64. And years passed by, and when I started retro collecting, which was probably back in 2008, I would say. One of the first things I really wanted to do was get my hands on the Commodore 64, but I got sidetracked by going for consoles first. So I started getting the Mega Drive, etc., and going that way. And all of a sudden, there's just one day I thought, you know what, I'm just, going to keep looking for 8-bit, couldn't find any. And then one Christmas, it was Christmas 2009, I'm pretty sure it was, my missus and her mother-in-law, who was living with us at the time, they chipped in and bought me a Commodore 64 for Christmas.
Nice.
So in 2009, so it's like reliving Christmas 1984, 25 years later.
They wrapped it. They wrapped it up.
Like proper present.
Nice.
We bought the presents down, we set them all up, and I'm looking at it and thinking,
what is that?
that's a big present. It's a skateboard. Yes, it's a Tony Hawk's one that I bought the other day. Yeah. But no, I thought that's a big, and it can't possibly be, can it? And it was. And I always like tore the paper. I was like, no freaking way, And I was like that, just like a child again.
Yeah.
And finally,
Nice.
I've got one. And they got me. I think it was Beachhead and Monty on the Run. I think to go with it as well. So Christmas Day 2009, I'm playing Monty on the Run. Got to take the front room, got the telly out, right, plug it all in, get it all working out, and then you got the Hubbard theme tune coming on and the infuriating gameplay. But that was it. And then I think 6 months later, I picked up a huge bundle from off eBay from a place in Kidderminster, and there was a massive pile of games. And I didn't realise that when I got there was actually another Commodore 64 included in it as well. I think I paid £50.
Wow.
And there must have been 200 to 300 games.
Bloody
I mean,
hell.
can you imagine trying to do something like that now? You're talking a few £100. And that I thought, now I've got this, I can do it. And then when I started doing YouTube in 2011 for a month, I was doing Commodore 64 gameplay.
Yeah.
So that's where I started, and I also do that again now.
Right.
And I did that for a month and then stopped for 7 years. And then obviously I went off in different directions. But now I've come around again, I'd say it's the third wave. It probably, it's the third wave now. I can't get enough of the 8-bit stuff again.
Yeah.
I'm really interested. I bought a fair bit from Scott last year for the Spectrum, and bought half his Hit Squad collection off him. I think that's what it was, which is great to have. I did a trade with Soy. He sent me a load of Spectrum and Amstrad games,
Nice.
as well during that period. And now I'm picking up 8-bit compilations for the 64. I'm buying Hit Squads here and there. I'm adding Amstrad stuff in as well. I just love it. It's like at the moment that's where my focus is. I went to Birmingham Game Market on Sunday, and I'm looking around for 8-bit stuff. Forget everything else. I probably missed half the stuff I would have normally have got. I'm just looking for 8-bit stuff. Got a vintage game. He's got a big pile out the back. Got a Danish shop. He's got stuff there. I go to all the Get Gaming at Gornley. He's got a little bit there as well. And that's where I am now. So I come full circle, really.
Yeah. I mean, I do pick up the odd bit here and there, but I'm pretty much buying micro stuff at the moment. So I know what you're on about when you say that. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. If I show you what I got on Sunday, I got the one game, so I'll show you. But it's Winners Compilation.
Oh, I remember them. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So that's got Thunderblade, Leadstorm, Indiana Jones, The Temple of Doom, Impossible Mission 2, and Blasteroids, which is an update of Asteroids.
Oh, Impossible Mission 2. If Paul was on here, he'd be wetting himself right now. He loves that game, doesn't he?
And I was thrilled because it's got everything's in there, all the plastic inlays in there as well. Unfortunately, it's the instructions are for the wrong compilation. But
for fuck's sake!
That's my fault, because I thought, they're in there. I didn't bother to check them, and then I got home and I saw that.
Myth.
I thought, hang on, I haven't got Myth. Myth isn't in here. And then I looked at the back and it says System 3, which is a completely different thing. So I realised I got the wrong one. But
to be fair, you it's not something you'd really check anyway. You look, you see a bit of paper, you'd naturally assume it's the right one, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was $12.99 in Tandy's. You won't be able to see that, but Tandy $12.99.
Yeah, Tandy. Yeah, I used to go in and mess up all their computers back in the day. I used to love it. Yeah, I used to go in there and just start deleting stuff. I used to enjoy that.
But that is the sort of thing that I look for now, or I'm looking for, 8-bit games, and it's strange, really. It's strange, but I love it.
What's great about all these old games, though, the micro stuff, is like what you said there about the Tandy label. I was just going for a load of Spectrum, and there was John Menzies There was
Woolworths.
Woolworths. And just
W8.
seeing all that, that's the nostalgia of it as well, isn't it?
W8 Smiths and
Yeah.
boots as well. You get one with boots written on it, you know you've done well, don't
Oh,
you?
yeah.
'Cause,
Yeah.
Boot. I remember boot stuff. Yeah. Well.
I used to love going in boots, looking at the old games and that. Yeah.
I haven't got the Hollywood pack. That's one I'm definitely missing. Which is
Yeah, it's
old
OSG,
school
wasn't it?
games.
Just
Yeah,
last
OSG mentioned
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd like that one. But I know it's quite priced still. I think a little bit. As long as the price is right, I don't mind paying for it. I mean, what I paid for that, I paid the equivalent of 80p a game, which is nothing. I paid £4 for that.
Wow.
And I think you look on eBay, it's at least, usually going price that is about a tenner. It's a bit bashed around the edges, but I ain't bothered about that. As long as the tapes are in good condition, there's no mold on them, there's no issues with it. I'm happy with that. So
Yeah, it's a good price. Good price.
Mm.
Look at this.
I find that the Facebook groups, the sort of micro specialist groups on Facebook, are the best places to buy a lot of them sort of games as well, because their eBay is just ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I've stopped looking on eBay. It's like I'm just not bothering there. But I don't do Facebook, so I'm probably missing out on loads of stuff anyway.
Oh, you are. There's
It's
some
pointless
fantastic
looking-
micro groups on Facebook.
It's-
There really is.
It's pointless looking on eBay because Martin's outbidding everyone. He's pointless. The filthy animal. He's outbidding everyone.
Well, you saying about Martin. I mean, did you see that comment there?
Yeah, I saw.
Look. And then you
But
got
he's been
people.
serious, isn't he? He's got a serious problem.
He has.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
But-
Size then put Martin is off the wagon again, and then 8-bit Rach just put Martin stop.
Yeah, you're right. But it's very easy to do so. I mean, like I said, I've probably got over 400 physical Commodore 64, probably in the region of 150
Wow.
physical Spectrum, and Amstrad's probably approaching about 40 or 50 now as well. So
Wow,
That's a lot- that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
it's quite a collection. And like I said, my ethos has always been, I know you can do it different ways, but I like to play it on the original system with the original hardware and the original software, and go through the pain of loading the tape.
Yeah.
And have it not load or stop loading. I have to do it 3 or 4 times. I have to get 2 different recorders out. If it's a 64, I'm getting, my 64 setup is I've got the Commodore 64 and I've got a tape deck either side. So it works in that one, don't work in that one. It'll go in that one.
Switch it over to the other one. Yeah.
One of them will work.
Mm.
It's weird. And I know that's the same. You can have an 8-bit game which will work on your system. You lend it to somebody else who won't work on this.
Yeah.
Whatever system it is. So
That's
Yeah,
half
that's
the
very
fun, though,
true.
isn't it? That
Oh,
is
yeah,
the fun.
I love it, Scott. I love it. It's like, is this going to load? Is it going to load? No, it's not. Okay, let's get it done now. Yes, it's loaded this time. It's great. It's got further than the last one. Brilliant. It's an achievement. It's just like unlocking 1000G on Xbox. Will the game load? Yes, it is. Yeah, great.
Well, I mean, with the Spectrum I've got at the moment, it's more often than not that it won't load. So it's not quite so good for me. You say. Right, Lee, you've got quite a unique perspective on this. I'm looking forward to hearing this.
Yeah, well, back in the day, I never had a Commodore, an Amstrad, a Spectrum. My brother had a Spectrum Plus 2. And I remember watching him because being 5 years younger, I was allowed to watch. Wasn't allowed to play or touch, but to watch, which sounds rude now when I'm nearly 40 to say that out loud. But anyway, we used to play Jack the Nipper. Well, he used to play Jack the Nipper, which I've mentioned so many times on Swap Shop about Jack the Nipper. I remember playing Renegade. There was a skate or die, maybe.
Yeah.
Thundercat. No, not Thundercats. He-Man. As a kid, my brother and I would watch them and all that. And then obviously my first console, was a NES, an 8-bit Nintendo. So I never got any micros or anything until later in life. And thanks to the Warlock of Dudley, Sai, he put me onto an Amstrad CPC 464 for free with the color screen. I haven't got it to show. I haven't sold it, by the way, so I have actually still got it. I have got it, I promise. And it came with a load of games. I got it for free from me and Swag So Sai is the reason why I've now got into 8-bit micro. However, what I will say is thanks to you, Mr. Geezer, Mr. Zombie, The Lodge, and Mr. Retro 8-bit, I've been buying other bits like homebrew stuff, obviously, because I'm mainly I would say mainly because of Martin, but obviously Lee as well. I know, yeah, you fucking do get the can I swear? Sorry. So yeah, I've got a couple of bits I can show. So I don't know if Lee, if you want me to show my Commodore 64. If not, we can. It doesn't matter.
No, you can show it if you want.
Because I haven't done a proper video. I've done a snippet. Look at Scott laughing, filthy animal. No, this is my Commodore 64 Terminator 2 Judgment Day edition variant. I don't even want to say. I bought this. I think it was 70 quid or 60 quid, and it was untested.
Untested.
Yeah, and it's all in there. It's complete. It came with the box is in nice condition. It came with which for me looked like a hooky tape deck, but then it does say on there Commodore.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those in boxes. Yeah.
Ah, cool. This and it's all good. I don't know if you remember Lee and Scott when I got it. It wouldn't.
I'm sorry to interrupt. OSG just said time to show a proper computer. So
all right, okay, no, that's fine. You know. I haven't got one of them yet. I will get one. I've been let down with one.
You have to get one of those. I will. The best looking micro there is.
Oh,
no doubt.
Yeah.
Oh, but I had no sound, if you remember, guys. And I bought an RGB cable, didn't fix it. And then I'm going to say Paul, but one of you guys anyway said to me, buy some fuses, just change the fuse. I changed the fuse and the fucking sound come on.
Yeah.
So and it works fine. Nothing's sticking or doesn't work. And, you know, it came with a couple of games like Power Drift, which...
Oh, classic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a hit squad, so Paul wet himself twice. RoboCop, and Top Gun, and a few other games. But then I only got one boxed game like you just showed there, Bear. I can't even. Is it Addict to Fun? Addict to Fun? Is that Addict to Fun?
Oh,
Addicted to Fun.
Addicted to Fun. Yeah, Addicted to Fun. Yeah, that's a
games
compilation, isn't it? That, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and they all work and they're great.
Best version of Bubble Bobble. That best.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome, and it sounds really good.
Yeah.
And then obviously Retro Bait introduced us. Well, but again to Retro Refix Steve, who sold me that to make. Because sorry, that wasn't in the box set with the system. So he sold me that. He done me over, bent me over backwards and frontwards, the filthy animal. But that game's terrible. I'm sorry. That game it doesn't make any sense. There's like a Street Fighter in T2 in the T1000 in the beginning, and I was like, I don't remember that in the film. I remember shooting him. But there is something that I have got that's really new to my collection. And I need to stop it, Scott. I need to show this because I've not. No. Listen, seriously, I've not shown this yet.
In a week.
No, I haven't. I've got this Commodore 64 disk drive. I don't even know.
Very nice.
Yeah, the box is a bit. Well, it's all there. They said lost a bit, but I think I paid. I think that was £85 delivered or £90 delivered. I can't remember. I thought it was a good price. I mean, as much as the system.
I was going to say it cost more than the Commodore.
Yeah, it did. But going off what all of you guys said, they're like rocking horse. So and it works fine. And obviously, I've got homebrews, which we'll talk about later. So anyway, so I'm really enjoying the 8-bit stuff. I'm not going to lie to you. I did feel, and this is a very small knowledge of 8-bit. I do think that the CPC had better colours, and I remember I said that, and so I went yes, because I got the coloured screen as well, and I quite enjoyed that system. I need to buy some games for it. I've only got like a stack. I can't think of the name of it. I should have pulled it out. It came with a set of games that are not like a hit squad. It was like It came in the set.
Amsoft.
Yes, sorry, there we go. Which is hilarious because they were based in Brentwood in Essex, which is the next town next to me. Because I checked the back, I was like, and I went to where they are, but it's completely got a block of flats now, or big houses now.
Ain't everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. The homebrew stuff's really where I'm into, thanks to obviously you, Lee, and thanks to Martin, because Martin likes to spend other people's money.
I'm just glad you're enjoying it, because some people might not, So
I prefer the discs, and that's only because I don't want to say they're low quicker. I just think they look cooler. I don't know. Maybe I'm being silly. For me, it looks a bit better in a strange way. To me, I think it looks a bit nicer. I don't know, especially the Cytronic stuff, like which I've got. Like the discs look lovely. The way they've done them is really nice.
Yeah,
so, yeah. That's thanks to Cy. Thank you, Cy.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting your journey on that one compared to everybody else's, and because I always say that, because a lot of people say to me about 8-bit stuff and games of that 8. Oh, how can you play something like that? Oh, I've tried them, I can't get on with them. And you look at the back of the box, it's arcade conversion or arcade style graphics, and they're nothing like it. Well, yeah, that's what you were sold on years and years ago. Yeah, they don't look like that. They obviously don't look like that. They didn't look like them back in 1985, 86, 87. But try them at least. At least try them, and rather than just dismiss them out of hand. Yeah, because for a lot of us, that's how we started. That's how a lot of people got into gaming, and that's where a lot of people are going back to now and recapturing that. So it's good to see that you're doing that, because you're using that example and saying, you know what, people recommended this 8-bit stuff to me. You know what, I'm going to go out and get it, and especially when you get that, the Amstrad for free with a bloody colour screen.
What's it? So I messaged me, goes, "Oh, Lee, you live in Essex, didn't you?" Obviously, fuck me, I talk about it all the time. There's some geezer in Chelmsford, is it near? I'm like, yes, it's 10 minutes up the road. And I went to the geezer's house, and he gave me all that, and he goes, "Oh, I've got a Sinclair ZX81, but he hasn't found it yet, because I think it's his parents' house. They've moved on, they've passed on, sorry, and he's moved in, and I think he's kind of going through all his stuff, and he's got some PlayStation stuff, which is not for this stream, that I need to collect, And the first game I played, because I'm sure, again, one of you guys said to me, play Oh Mummy or All Mummy. I think it was Oh Mummy or Our Mummy.
Oh Mummy.
So and that was really cool. That was a really good game, actually, to be fair. And that was on the Amstrad. And it's different how I need to get this right. The TV powers. No, hang on. The TV powers the keys, or the keys power the TV?
No, the monitor. The keyboard powers off the monitor, don't it? Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember how it goes, because I remember there's only one plug, and I was like, "Am I missing a wire?" Because there's only one plug. Like, that was it. So, but that's me, boys.
What got me into micros? Well, I can remember it pretty well. It was around about 81, 82. I'm guessing around about that time. And my mum's friend Jill come over with a Sinclair Spectrum 48K, and she had those simple games, survival and all that, running on it. And there was one game in particular that she had that I fell in love with, and that was Scuba Dive. I was really impressed with that game. I thought it was absolutely amazing, just like a huge world to discover that I'd never seen before. I was used to going down the arcades, having quick games, high score challenges, but this game seemed like it was a whole world out there waiting to be discovered. Now, I've still got my original copy here. This is the one I bought with my paper round money after I saw the one that she bought round. And this got played to death. It really did. I've still got marked on the cassette the side that works there. I wrote that there on the bit of red, just to say that side works and the other side doesn't. But yeah, I absolutely love this game. This is what got me into it. And then, you find out other friends at school have got them. I used to go around to my mate Ben's house, and we used to copy. I used to copy his games, and he used to copy my games. So we'd save a bit of money there. We had a computer club at school. That was great days at school. I mean, schools today, I mean, they have such terrible clubs, after school clubs. Back then, we had a chess club, we had a Dungeons and Dragons club, and we had a computer club, and that was all BBC Micros set up. So that's why I've still got my BBC Model B, because I didn't own one back in the day. They were too expensive. But, you know, fond memories after school in the computer club playing games, you know. So there was another way that I got introduced to micros, but it was purely my mum's friend coming round and then just discovering other kids at school got them, you know. And it was almost like every kid was coming to school with games, you know, telling each other what their experiences were with the game. Is it any good, you know, because we didn't really have, I know we weren't really buying magazines back then.
It was all word of mouth, wasn't it? Really, that's all you had.
It was word of mouth, yeah. Or you had to mail order a lot of the games. I think I did mail order one game. My mum wrote the check off. She thought she'd never see the money again. But the game did turn up. But yeah, back in those days, you could even find the games that you wanted that were advertised in the magazines in the shop. You had to mail order them. So around about 82, so I would have been about 11 back then. You know, I've had experiences in the arcade, and then finally I get my Sinclair Spectrum. I think I got it for Christmas, 48K, and I think within a month of owning it, I opened it up. I love to see how things worked, even though I didn't have a clue what was going on. I undid all the screws, took the rubber key out, and had a look inside. I just wanted to see what this thing was, and I was none the wiser. Put it all back together, but I forgot a screw. I left a screw in the computer.
Always the way.
To turn it on,
shorted it.
It short-circuited it.
Oh no!
I was fucking devastated. I was. I didn't tell my mum what I'd done. I just said it doesn't work. Quickly took the screw out. Mum still had the receipt from Dixon's. I think no, it wasn't Dixon's. It was in the Bentle Centre in Kingston. I can't remember the store, but we took it back and we got a replacement, which was good enough. And I think they were about 129 quid back then.
Yeah, I think the thing is with that, so many of them failed on their own that nobody would know that you'd broke it yourself.
No,
the return rate was quite high with Spectrums back then.
Yeah. I've never opened it up again, and I'm always quite wary of fixing shit now. Leaving screws in places. Yeah. But yeah, fond memories. Really fond memories back in the day. I mean, for me, it sums up the 80s, you know, the arcades and the Spectrum games. I had one friend that had a Commodore 64.
He must have been rich.
And the only games I remember him Mission Impossible and Bruce Lee.
Oh, Bruce Lee, cracking game. I love that game.
Yeah, but I still think Bruce Lee's best on the Spectrum.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
Yeah,
it's got to be better than the BBC port I played the other day.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, that's not so good. But you'll find like some games are better on the BBC, aren't they? Like Chucky Egg.
Oh yeah. Chucky Egg on the BBC, I think, is the best port of it. But then you can say Jetpack on the BBC is the worst port of it.
Yeah.
You know? But,
definitely better on Specky.
The BBC didn't really have the games that the Spectrum had. It didn't have the games that I started to get into, like School Days, Chaos, Rebel Star. They were games that were different, completely different. We'd never seen anything like it. I mean, the BBC just really had arcade ports, a lot of it, and platform games, which was cool, but it was never the same experience. You know, they were just poor man's versions of the arcade game.
Yeah,
you know?
I've been playing the BBC quite a lot the past week. And I completely agree with you with that. It's like there are some really good games on it, but I would say like 70% of it is just meh. You know what I mean?
Well,
forgettable.
I enjoy the BBC for the arcade ports. I think they're great. But back in the day, I wanted something more than that. And the Spectrum had that for me. It had those games that had a lot more depth to it, especially Chaos, where we had all our mates around. You could have 8 mates around the computer playing this game because we're all into Dungeons and Dragons really heavily. And this was like a Dungeons and Dragons game. You know, this is my original copy of Chaos. And this, I've put so many hours into this game back in the day. It's still probably one of my favourite games of all time. And I was lucky enough to meet Julian Gollop at Revival about 3 years ago. Yeah, I was just like, for me, he's like a movie star. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, I couldn't get my words out. But yeah, it was just amazing to meet him. You know, he was such a cool guy. Because I love his game. Anyway, I'm going on too long, guys. That's my.
That's right. You're fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask: is that the one that Si sent you the poster to?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
yes.
thought.
Thank you so much for that, Simon.
No, it's all good. He printed a couple off and he said he wasn't selling them. And I said, look, would you mind sending it to you? I got your address from Paul Retrobite. And I thought, well, I could tell you, or I could just leave it until it arrives and you'll get a surprise in the post. So, yeah. I mean, it didn't cost anything. It's just, I thought, how perfect person it can go to be honest.
I really appreciate it, mate. Yeah, because it is probably, it would make my top 10 game of all time. You know, with all, I mean, it's such a difficult to make any top 10. But, you know, it's still a game that I would go back and play. And the amount of times, the time we put into it back in the day is madness, you know, and that just shows what a good game
if
it was.
I ever do a meet up with you, you need to show me how to play it because I don't get it. You know, I mean, I had the demo which came on the cover tape.
Yeah,
I know that that version you've got can be expensive, but the big box version is ridiculously expensive now. There's hardly any out there.
I've got a copy, you can have, mate. I've got a copy.
No, it's not so much a copy. I just want to play it with you. You know what I mean? I want someone to explain the game because I've looked at it. I've got it on the Div MMC. It just makes no sense to me. But the way you talk about it and the passion behind it makes me want to learn how to play it.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You get at the beginning, say you've got 4 players, you all at the beginning get a bunch of spells. Some could have more spells than others. It's chaos, right? So you never know what you're going to get. You could have a load, and the table's really about law and chaos. And all the spells are divided up in law and chaos. So you could have like a green dragon that's law, which means it's good. You could have a red dragon that's chaos. The more law you put on the table, the more chance of your higher ranked law spells working. So you save your best spells until the table with everybody's put their stuff on. You can see which way it's going. You know, it could be in the middle. You know, you could take a gamble. But what you're trying to do, you add up all of your spells to see, have I got more law spells or more chaos spells? How am I going to play this? You know, I've got a vampire.
So I can see how it can happen with 4 people, as you said, it can be complete chaos.
And it can completely go the other way. If someone gets a magic wood, then they've got trees everywhere. They can
magic wood.
Come on, you can't say that, and I can't not snigger. Come on.
Yeah, you can't.
Alex, we're all watching you, mate. We've all got magic wood. Come on, listen.
I've got magic wood.
You know you're going to get Retro Chef in the comments now, don't you?
Oh God!
I'm getting a bit geeky, a bit nerdy, aren't I? But yeah.
Well, that's what this is about, though, isn't it? It's a nerdy stream.
Exactly.
Martin, I'm surprised you haven't played it because it'd be right.
I generally haven't, yeah. Given all of my history in Warhammer and D&D and all of that, I've never heard of it until you started talking about it. So, from before time. So I definitely need to check it out.
By Spectrum.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's on the wrong system. That's the problem, isn't it?
No, it's on the right system.
So there's a comment here for you, Alex.
Let me just add one thing, because what makes the game is you can put a spell on the table. Say I could put like an ogre, really powerful ogre, but it could be a fake. It could be and no one would know. But everyone has a disbelieve spell. So you could waste your turn doing a disbelief spell on an ogre just to see if it's real or not. If it's not real, you've killed it because it's not real. And that adds another, risk reward element to the game. Brilliant game. And again, Rebel Star is the sequel, which is another must play.
I don't know if you saw this comment, Alex. I'll just put it up again. Chef's put, any other surprise packages this week?
Oh,
you know what
shit.
he's getting at, don't you?
I'm saving that for a video. He sent me a lovely package, as Lee.
Save it for the video because I think that deserves a video in its own.
Yeah.
I think he thinks I smell or something.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, Martin.
I've got it, mate.
I remember now.
Magic trunk, more like. God, this stream's going downhill fast, isn't it? Right, let's quickly change subject. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first if you want. Is it what goes into micros originally or what goes back into it now?
Both.
All right. So originally, what happened was it was Christmas. I think it was 1983 or something like that, and me and my sister had asked for a Commodore 64 for Christmas, and like you don't know us around here. Paul knows where I'm from, and it's not like the poshest place in the world. My mum is a single. My mum was like a single mother, and she went out and she bought us a Commodore, but it was like a VIC-20, right? It was second hand. So me and my sister woke up on the morning, and I'd only been about 7-year-old or something like that, 6-7-year-old. I didn't know no different. She was a little bit disappointed, but we still loved it because we never had a computer before. So that's really where it started. And then, like, obviously my first real computer, what my mum got was the Commodore 64C, which was the Hollywood pack. And that came with, so the first real Commodore 64 game that I ever loaded up was like Platoon. And like proper blew us away. The soundtrack was just brilliant. The game was up hard. I've only ever completed Platoon now that I'm older. When I was younger, I couldn't complete it. But there was some shit games on there as well, like Top Gun, Miami Vice, shite.
Miami Vice gives me like an epileptic fit almost. Like I can't even start the vehicle. I've no idea.
That is an unplayable game. I'm sure it is.
Does your copy like flash? Like does it just go mental? Like that's all mine does.
But it had Rambo on there. That was a good game. And what was the other game? What was on there? Oh, Great Escape. Great Escape was the second part, though, wasn't it? So it was a good game, though. So that's how I got into them. And then from then I went on. I used to chop sticks and that and stuff like that around the streets and sell them. And that's how I bought me like a second-hand Amiga off my friend and stuff like that. So that's how I got into like computers when I was younger. But then older, round about, I think it was about 2010, I got back into like MAME, and one of my mates, he was like, I don't know if you know Hyperspin, the front end for MAME.
What's MAME again? Is that the arcade?
The arcade one. So yeah. you've got some kind of you've got some front ends. You've got Launchbox. Everybody knows Launchbox now, but back then it was like Hyperspin was the main one, and he was like a developer on Hyperspin, and he got us back into it, and that's when I built my cabinet and got into it that way. But then I started like collecting all the old stuff to start a YouTube channel because I could go on for ages. How you mind? What happened was, I'll tell you how I got into YouTube with Mike. What happened was I was at work one day and I was working as a performance tester for this man who was like he was proper getting on my wick, and I told him about my son used to watch YouTube, and he watched like Dan TDM and all that, and how they were making like £15 million a year and stuff like that. And he goes, you can't make money on YouTube. And I had a bet with him that I would start making money on YouTube. So off I went on that night, and I don't know if anybody knows anything about performance tests, but then I set up loads of servers. I set my YouTube channel up, put a video on, set loads of servers up to go and watch me videos, right? So I and I was thinking, oh, I'm quids in here, right? I was like, this is when you could look on AdSense and see how much you were making, like all the time, not like, you know, when it just gives you what you're going to make at the end of a month. It tells you all the time what you were going to be making back then. It was before you had to have 1,000 subs and stuff like that for the threshold. It was just, you could just go on and make money straight away. And I was making like £62 an hour, right, off that, right? But then after 3 days, YouTube caught us, right? It just like blocked me channel from making any more content. But by this time, I'd made like about 15 videos, and I'd gotten the bug. And like I had a 30-day ban where I couldn't make any money or upload or anything, but I just kept on making videos. And then when I came back on, I just started hammering the videos on and did it the right way. I think I was quite lucky because I think that I went from like no subscribers up to about 2,000 subscribers in about maybe a month and a half.
Wow.
I think that now it's really starting to get like saturated with people coming in. It's harder now, but that's how I got into it. And I just love Commodore because Commodore's like with us all the time. I've got like a Commodore 64 here, the VIC-20, my Amiga. I do have a Spectrum here, like, but I've actually got 3 Spectrums. I've got 2 down there, like the 48K one, and then just the Plus, and then the 128K. But that's the one what doesn't actually play anything. Do you know the one what's not compatible with any games?
Oh, that's the same. Mine seems to work okay. You've got an Atari ST stashed away somewhere as well, haven't you?
I've had to move my Atari ST because I've put my computer there, so that's actually just wedged down the side of the yard.
Keeping the door closed.
That's what I've got. Get down there. But I've got loads of stuff. I've got like I've got like Dreamcast. That's my original Dreamcast stuff when I was young. My original Master System. Got Sega Saturn, which GP, who's in the chat, he went halfies on that for us. I remember ages ago, and I've still got that. I've got loads of shit lying about. I didn't even ever use them. It's a bit like, you know, when you were talking today, Paul, when you were saying about people having stuff on the shelves just for show, for like the minis and stuff like that. That's sort of what all my stuff is, because. And this really winds us up when people talk about emulation, because I use emulation more than I use any of my real systems, because it's far easier. It's easier for streaming. It's easier for everything. I mean, there's nothing like the smell of a Commodore 64 though when it starts up. It does like have a burn and like smell. That's
probably the carpet from the PSU.
My PSU is like the oldest one ever known to man.
Oh, is it the cheese grit? Is it the cheese fucking? Oh, it is the cheese.
It is. Oh, god, them things are death traps.
Right.
They get really hot, don't they?
It's just
Please tell me you've got a power saver. Have you got a power saver?
What?
Like, you haven't, have you?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't.
It's like something that plugs in to the end of your PSU before you plug it into the Commodore 64, and it's got a little relay. And if the PSU starts to knock out over 5 volts DC or 12 volts AC, or it's the other way around. It's 5 or whatever. If it goes over voltage, like the relay cuts out, so it doesn't burn your chips out in your Commodore 64.
I haven't got one of them. I tell you what, I have got
the worst one for it.
My circuit boards are actually out of a marijuana house. So my brother,
I think they still do that.
My brother used to like he has houses where he rents out to people, and in the paper about 4 years ago, his house down the street from us, some Chinese people lived in there, and they were growing the marijuana, and it was the biggest haul what the police had ever gotten. But just all it did is the police went in, chopped the plants off, right? And then just left me brother to clean everything up, and he sold the extractors and everything to people down Manchester, and then
he had a whole new setup. He could have just started growing. I never looked at the same place twice.
Do you want these circuit boards? No, just put it in. So it's got like it's got 12 plugs on, and then it's got like a timer and that on. It's good. But that's me. That's me. You can move on now.
You've got to live up to something there, mind, Stuart.
I was going to say, Stuart, you've got to beat that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any beating that. I mean, definitely no marijuana houses in my recollection anyway. What got me into micros was the Atari 2600. I absolutely begged my parents in 82, for an Atari 2600. My cousin had won the year before for his Christmas in 91, and the only other thing that I'd seen any games played on was a ZX81 at the time. Now, as a 9-year-old, the ZX81 isn't that exciting, and when you compare it to the Atari 2600, it was night and day. So for a whole year, I absolutely begged for this Atari 2600. Christmas Day, 82, open up the present, and here's this little black box with the ZX Spectrum on it, and I had no idea. Turned to my dad, as you would do, as a 9-year-old just about turning 10. What's this? Asked for an Atari. My dad said, "This was so much better than an Atari. You'll get so much more use out of it." And we plugged it on. I had 2 cassettes. She had Horizons, the tech demo, and Hungry Horace. Oh. And let me tell you, I played Hungry Horace for a good month before my birthday and got new games, and I was absolutely enchanted, not just with how much better the games seemed than the Atari games, because they just seemed less blocky than the Atari games, but also the coding. When you get your ZX Spectrum back in the day and you open it up and you get the manual, you get this whole manual of coding in it. Yeah, and when you can sit down there and you can type some lines of code, we didn't call it coding back then, we just called it programming. Coding's a very new term, well, it is to me anyway, and you could type in these lines of code and the stars and stripes would draw on your screen, and you had done that. It was absolutely mind-blowing at the time, the starburst patterns, making little tunes by yourself, beep 1, beep 2, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. And from then on, I had no interest in the Atari whatsoever. It wasn't versatile enough for me, because I wanted not only to play the games, but to learn how to make them. And back in the 80s, unfortunately, I couldn't do a line of basic other than what everybody does, 10, print, Sega Zombie is great, 20, go to 10, run. That's all I could do now. But back in the 80s, I loved to sit and write code. And I'm probably one of the oldest in the group here just now as well. So BBC Micros were just coming in to the schools when I was in high school. And I could sit down and I could do things that the other students couldn't. Age 11 going 12. Oh, absolutely mind-blowing. Yeah. Now, I stuck with Spectrum, because I stuck with Spectrum, let's see, I got the 16K in 82. For my birthday, I got some new games, and I got the RAM pack, the 32K RAM pack, which takes it up to the 48K. And then after that, it was the Spectrum Plus I got for the next, it was a year and a half after that. And then after that, the Plus 2 with the tape deck. Oh, when you got that tape deck attached to your machine and you didn't have to mess about with volume, fantastic. And again, from there, I went on to, where did I go on to from there? I kept that right up till 1989 when I got the Plus 3, and had that until 91. Now, that wasn't the only micro, obviously, I had experienced at this time, because other people did have. Now, in the west of Scotland, however, the Spectrum was king, without a doubt. I mean, I knew no one that had a Commodore 64, absolutely no one. And I think part of the reasoning for that was that the Spectrums were made in Scotland. Yeah. Oh, really? And when something's made where you're from, you get all behind it. I did know a couple of guys who had CPCs, the Amstrads with a green screen. And people knock that green screen, but I think there's something magical about it. And I don't know, it looked computery, I think it's hard to explain it. I couldn't explain to my kids. They wouldn't sit and watch a green screen. They wouldn't watch a black and white movie at the moment. And I knew a kid that had a Dragon as well, but not a single soul that had a Commodore 64. We referred to them as that Yankee computer. But yeah, that's what we said. No, we don't want that Yankee computer. And just about everyone who was into the micro scene or any sort of gaming, because I didn't even see a Master System or an NES until about 89, 90. That was the first time I actually laid hands on any of those console systems. So, I mean, yeah, it was all specky for me.
We used to call the Spectrum that wanky computer.
Yeah, but we were proud of our obviously our British machine and made in Scotland. And yeah, you know what kids are like. And back then, yeah, the playground would have been awful if you had a Commodore where I grew up anyway.
To be fair, I think I was the only one who had a Commodore. I think all my mates had Spectrums. And
really? They were good lads.
Like where I'm from, which is probably 12 miles from you, something like that. Like Farringdon, just as you're coming into Sunderland. Like
it's only about 5 miles in us.
Well, like everyone had Commodore 64s. There was a couple of people had Speckies, and I used to go to their houses and we used to play their games. They would come to mine. But yeah, the majority was Commodore 64s, and then it was the Amiga. And then when I got to like senior school, everyone had Amiga. That was it. You had an Amiga, or you were out.
See, that was another thing. Didn't have an Amiga. I wasn't that fussed with moving on to the 16-bit micros because I was starting to veer away towards IBMs at the time.
Yeah, PC.
But the only 16-bit micro I owned was the Atari ST, and that was because Commodore was the name on the Amiga. But to be fair, the only game
probably more Commodore.
That's the thing, yeah. When you look at it, but the thing is, the only game I ever played on it was Championship Manager. That was the only thing I ever played on my Atari ST. That was it.
Stunning.
Oh, fantastic game.
Oh, I failed my GCSEs because of that game. I'll never live it down.
Good question. Well, it's just, I don't know. It's just growing up as a kid in the 80s and like that kind of thing where you just, you ride your bike everywhere. You know what I mean? That's kind of sums up the 80s for me. Just riding your bike with your mates, and you kind of ride your bike and go to other people's houses, and other people just had micros. We never had one.
Yeah.
And I had a mate down the road whose brother had a C64, and whenever his brother went out, we'd kind of sneak into his room and play it. But sometimes he'd come home and sort of kick us out. And I had like mates who had Speckies and Amstrad and stuff. And I never really kind of favoured one over another, because like they always say that question, like, what's the best one? It's really the one you had as a kid. And I had none of them as a kid. So I just liked playing them. Like anything I could get my hands on, I'd play, you know what I'm saying? And but my mate down the road, one of my best mates, Ali, he had a BBC Micro. And we had them in schools and that, and we did play a few games there. But really, like the bulk of how I got into it was just playing the BBC Micro at his, and we just play BBC Micro to death all the time. And that was really kind of my first love playing games, apart from the arcades. Like my first love playing games at home was definitely the BBC, and yeah, just kind of seeing, even during the lifespan of the BBC, just the development from very simple kind of arcade clones like Asteroids and stuff like that, and then which I'm sure we'll talk about later. It even just on the BBC, it progressed so much of what they were doing and what games were capable of and what games could be to me. So I think that kind of that journey through the BBC was really sparked that passion that which is obviously a lifelong passion now. For playing games.
Do you still have one?
Back to the BBC, really.
Do you still have one, Pete?
I do have one. It did belong to Alex Nintendo Arcade. Boom!
Okay.
Nearly bit his hand off when he was selling it. Right. But it's got I don't mess around with floppies anymore or anything. But actually, they're very hard to get hold of because my mate had floppies. We never used tapes. Yeah. I did use tapes when I went to mates' houses who had Speckies and Commodores and all that. No one ever had floppies, but BBC, it was always floppies. But they're so hard to get now. And when you do see them come up, people want crazy money for them. So it's just got an SD card in that one, which suits me down to the ground. And you boot it up and it's got every game on and it loads instantly. There's no like waiting 10 minutes for it to load up, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, for the Commodore 64, I mean, I've got a tape cart for that, which I do use, but you're slightly limited with that because you can only put PRG files on it. So I do still use tape, but back in the day, it was more discs for me. When I first got my C64, it was all discs. But yeah, the thing is now, I mean, you know that this rot over time is like, you know, do I want to go back there, you know? So I tend to just buy the tapes now, you know? But yeah, so you use the micros. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I know a lot of you into homebrews, and obviously having the tape or a disk drive in that case is handy. But
yeah,
otherwise, I think it's just a bit risky. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the comments here. What's this one here, Steve? Hi guys, I had a BBC when I was 14. Looking to buy another one as soon as I sold my BBC. Yeah. Yeah, see, so you want another one. That's the thing. I mean, there's different types, isn't there, of BBC, though, isn't there? Because the one Si, I think, is always talking about is the MSX2, I think. Was it the MSX2?
MSX2?
I'm sure that's
is that not just is that not an MSX?
Hang on, he's in the comments. Let's see if he says.
He'll put it in there in a minute. He's
he will do.
Getting it off the shelf.
But yeah, there are a few different models. I think there's the Model B that I used back in the day, and that's the one I have now.
Yeah, because I'm sure that Si's got quite a few different ones. Because what was that TI-99 he was showing? Was that a BBC or was that something completely different?
That's completely
different. I don't think that's a BBC.
I know it's hard to keep up.
Isn't that made by? It's not made by Acorn, is it? It's made by. It's on the tip of my tongue. Who makes that? Si will say anyway. Texas Instruments. There you go.
Yeah, Texas. Yeah. Techly's just put it there, hasn't he? Yeah. I mean, one of the ones that I didn't realise when Si showed it. Obviously, I remember the Acorn Electron, but I never realised that was a BBC cut down until he said about it.
Wow.
So a lot of the games were released on both platforms.
Yeah. I think he said it lost a bit of performance, though, where they cut it down. It wasn't quite as powerful.
Yeah, well, that was the main problem with the BBC. It's so expensive. You know, 400 quid, 500 quid, like early 80s. That's crazy money.
A lot of money.
No one had them. You know, that's why I was so lucky that my mate had one, or his family had one.
Because this is the thing at the time, I suppose Spectrum was probably like dominating the home market at this time, wasn't it? So, because it was so much cheaper, wasn't it? You know, I mean, one of the things I was saying. He was saying about how the early Spectrums, like, it only had one screw holding the board in to keep the costs down, you know. So, yeah.
But that's where they nailed it. They made it affordable for everyone, you know.
Yeah. Because something else he was saying was they used to use like busted RAM chips as well. He was buying busted RAM chips just to keep the cost down. So obviously you had a lot of Spectrums getting sent back then. But yeah. Yeah, so like I was saying, I mean, we never had the BBC at school, and I know a lot of people did use them. Like I was saying, obviously something was going on at my school. Catholic school, they're weird, aren't they? So what was this? There was an add-on for Acorn Electron to make it work like a BBC Micro called a slugger board. Okay, interesting name.
How old is Sky? Is he like a vampire? Like, you know, like in Twilight? Is he like 96 but looks like 31 or something?
Well, that's the funny thing. He's about 5 years younger than me, but he knows more about this stuff than I do with the BBCs and that. That's the funny thing.
I think he grew up. He grew up in the warehouse, like in Rumbelows warehouse, something like that. All the computers.
Rumbelows.
Yeah. He was in Rumbelows in the back. Bless him.
Well, I mean, last stream we did, someone mentioned Tandy. I mean, that's another one, isn't it?
Tandy.
Yeah.
Rumbelows, Tandy, Dixon's, isn't it? Oh, Dixon's, bless it.
Oh, I've got to address this comment. Love the Man United flag. No, it's a scarf, and it's my oldest boy's, like, as a Chelsea one, and all that's my youngest.
Set fire to it.
I can't stand club football. Yeah, let's see. Sorry, 39,
you was born in 1939. Wow, that's impressive.
He's a time traveler.
That explains it. Yeah,
that explains. Doesn't it, Pete? That's what it is. 1839. He's the 15th Doctor.
Yeah, he's pretty much H.G. Wells.
Yeah. Oh look, bought my first VHS player from Tandy. Yeah. And
Nice.
see, another one I mentioned to someone the other day about Tempo. Do you remember Tempo? I used to like going in there and messing with all their computers. I used to love that because I was doing computers at college at the time. So I used to go in and wipe the hard drives and all sorts. Because you know that the people who work there, 9 times out of 10, know less than you do. So if you go in and just wipe it all off, they ain't got a clue how to fix it. Used to love doing that. That was back when you used to learn DOS because Windows wasn't what it was becoming a thing, but you know.
Yeah, I still have to. I got a Windows 98 PC here, and just using DOS on it, it just takes me back to how much of a pain in the arse it was.
Yeah,
like getting sound cards configured, and that is an absolute nightmare. Took me ages because you have to type all this gibberish in to get it working on Windows, and then it's all separate for working on DOS. And then like I'd have like sound effects working and the music not working, or vice versa, and stuff like that. It's just madness. And now like everything's plug and play, like literally plug and play. Because when plug and play first came out, it wasn't really plug and play, was it? Like let's be honest.
No. Yeah, that's the thing with Windows. I mean, that's why it became so successful when it was because everything worked with it, you know. So yeah, that was the thing with DOS. It was a lot trickier, but I did like the fact that I did learn quite a bit about DOS, because at times when someone's having trouble with a computer, I could go into DOS and, you know, do something on it there, you know, and they look at you like you just perform witchcraft because they're only used to Windows, you know. So
yeah,
mind you, that's what I can remember though. That's the thing. I mean, there's a lot to, you know, with DOS, there's a lot to remember, and I've got to be honest, I don't remember most of it. I need to set up my retro gaming PC. Not used it for years. Yeah, see, I've got a retro PC. I've got a thin client that I got from Martin, and it's basically just a miniature PC that I used to use in the call centers, and it's just got a hard drive in it, and it's perfect. Like, I was sitting there playing things like Command and Conquer and out on it. It's really good. Right.
Lee very kindly sorted me out with this PC, didn't you, Lee?
Oh, the one I picked up for you. Yeah. It was it looked like fucking brand new.
Yeah, it was like mint, wasn't it? It still looks amazing. But
and then he had I'm trying to remember. He said to me he had all the original stuff, like the graphics card. Was it with it? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it had graphics card, and it had like a decent sound card with a Vortex chip on it, and all sorts. Yeah,
it looked brand new. Like literally, it looked like brand new.
But like Si says, there's nothing quite like playing Doom and that on a old PC like that, you know.
Champ Manager, mate. Love playing Champ Manager on old PC as well for me.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like, I mean, you know, some of the games that were on PC that they converted to other systems like consoles, etc. You lose the mouse feel and things like that.
Yeah,
you know, it's just not the same, is it? You know, like for example, when they put Lemmings on Mega Drive, you know, you try and play that, it's a mess, isn't it? You know, you put it on a PC or an Amiga, perfect.
Do you know what it is as well? It's that little bit of nostalgia of having a PC computer desk with one of those stupid fucking chairs. We had to turn the cog to make the back stay in place. You're sitting close to the screen, and as you're on the mouse, you're pushing yourself away because of the wheels on the chair. You got your drink on the top shelf, a couple of bickies or whatever, and then you're playing Champ Manager. You're waiting for it to load. They were good times. Good times.
Well, the getting back into micros was easy. It was that man up there. But anyway,
Not me again.
Everybody blames Paul.
Actually, on commission.
Yeah, you should have done. Shameless plug. So I did a video on this not that long ago, actually. So what I can remember is my cousin got into IT and computers first, and I think he had a 6128. And I don't know, I must have been about 8 when I sort of had a bit of a dabble with that. And thought, this was quite interesting. And then I used to get picked up after school by family friends, and he had a PC. The dad had a PC, and we were allowed to go on there now and then just to click around and have a play. So that's sort of where the bug started with IT. And I just remember it, same as like we all probably did, just badgering my parents that I want something for Christmas. And then yeah, in 1991, remember it's plain as day. I think in my video I even retraced the steps going up the high street in my local town to where I bought it from. Got a Commodore 64, Commodore C64C.
Sorry, didn't you almost start a fight on an innocent member of the public as well?
Yeah. He was kicking off at me on the top of the high street. What are you filming? What are you doing? But no, he was fine in the end. But yeah, no, it was Terminator 2, Judgment Day pack. Plain as day. Remember walking into the shop straight in front of me. There it was on the shelf, and yeah, it was all mine. When we bought it, it was the day before we were going on holiday for a week, so I had to actually almost wait a whole week to play on it, which was I was gutted about. But yeah, that's how I got into it. So my parents wanted me to have a Commodore 64 and not a console, mainly because they thought that I'd do other stuff on it other than playing games. Yeah, right. But yeah, and that's how it all started, really. I fast forward, I didn't really do much in the way of consoles at all the way through the console era. I'm very much a PC man, so I went from a Commodore 64, and I know Scott will know this, but I went from a Commodore 64 to an Amstrad Mega PC. So if those of you don't know, it's a Sega Mega Drive and a 386 PC built into one unit. But I very much only ever use it pretty much on the PC side because I was addicted to point and click games like Monkey Island and all those, which just worked really well on a PC. So I kind of then went down the PC side. But my best mate, who was a single child who lived opposite me, literally had every console under the sun when it came out. So it worked really well. If we wanted to play on a PlayStation or whatever, I used to pop over there and watch and play Resident Evil or whatever, or if you wanted to play Championship Manager or do a Monkey Island, you used to come over mine. So that's basically how it worked. Getting back into micros, we've got to be almost coming up to a year, I should imagine, since I started again. And genuinely, the only way that I got back into it was, as you all know, I'm always in hospital. I was in hospital last year for 15 weeks, and I was just trawling through YouTube as you do. And I can't even remember which channel it was I stumbled on first. It was one of you guys for sure, one of the Retro 5. And then I just started watching more and more and more. Then I started leaving comments. And then it just snowballed from there. And then eventually our friend Paul said, I've got a really good deal for a Commodore 64 if you want one. And
well, we were talking for quite a while. I remember because like I had never met you before or anything. It was in the requests, when you get a message of someone you don't know on Facebook, it puts it in like a different thing. And I think I was buying something on Facebook, so I had to click onto the requests thing, and then I saw your message. So I read it, and wow, it was fairly long. Explain like you were in hospital and you're getting into watching YouTube a lot, and then suddenly you thought, oh, I'll start watching about retro gaming, and then that was it. And then you sent me a message, and that's how I got speaking to you. And
yeah, exactly that. And I know, with Lee, there's been some nights where he's been at work all night, and I haven't been able to sleep or whatever. We've literally just been chatting
all night.
So yeah, that's genuinely how I got back into it. So I've only really been back in the hobby for a year, and I'm actually, all these games, so anything that's console related, I'm actually discovering for the first time, which is great. I do need to work out which direction my collecting is going to go, because it can very quickly get out of hand, which I've already realized. So I think I do need to do this niching down that everybody talks about. But so far it's been brilliant. I've absolutely loved it. Community have been absolutely amazing. All the well wishes I keep getting when I'm ill. It's been, I cannot thank everybody enough. It's been absolutely fantastic. So thoroughly enjoying it.
Nice.
What got me into micros? Well, it started back in sort of like late 70s when I started on like the Philips G7000. Obviously we all had Pong back then. But moved on to VIC-20.
Okay.
My mate wanted me to get a Spectrum, so I got one of them. But you know what Speckies can be like, trying to load games. You've got to get the tone right and the bass right and the volume right. And you can imagine like a bloody 8-year-old trying to do that. Well, my mum got sick of taking that back to the shop, so she ended up buying me a Commodore 64, which for me were a cracking move. But I do enjoy Spectrum. I do like that. I do like the Spectrum, and I do have quite a few computers.
Yeah.
Missing a few out of the collection, but it's mainly Commodore.
Yeah. Did
Um,
you ever like come out of micros for a time and then go back to it, or have you always?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when I got to about 15 and school and girls and things like that started, and then you progress in relationships and end up married and settled down with kids and stuff like that. So computers go out a window. So it was probably early 90s, probably 1991-ish when I moved away from them and came back to computers around about 99, 2000.
Right.
Started collecting back of it retro probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I wish I'd started 10 years ago because I'd have had 3 times the amount what I have now. And that's not, I've got quite a bit now, if you know what I mean.
Would have been cheaper too.
It would, yeah. Hell yeah, a lot cheaper. But yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I've always had a passion for retro computers. Always had a passion for arcade machines, anything video game wise.
What about Amiga, Steve? Was you into the Amiga?
I got an A500 in about 91. I didn't have it for too long because obviously my wife at the time ended up pregnant with a second child, so something has to go, doesn't it, at that time? And then it went.
The wife and kids should have went.
That would be the answer these days. If you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I'd have stayed in my bedroom with my 64 and progressed with Commodore if I could have seen what was coming.
Yeah, hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, I got into repairing probably quite a long time ago when 360s were about. Obviously, all Red Rigger deaths and drive issues and stuff like that. And I worked for myself, and I worked for about 4 game shops looking after the consoles for repairs and things like that back then.
Yeah.
But once the Xbox One came out and the PS4, everything sort of dropped away then. So I decided, right, sod it, I'm going to go back to my roots and get back to the 8-bits and the Amigas. So yeah, I've got quite a massive collection now.
Yeah,
I've got something new coming up that I'll show you in a bit.
Cool. Look forward to it. Right, Al, what got you into micros?
Well, I mean, obviously everyone's going to know that my first computer was the Amstrad 464, but I think before that, first computer I'd ever seen was at a primary school, and before I mentioned that, like the school I went to was actually a Catholic primary school, and it was like all the teachers were bloody nuns. So my first experience. Really? All right.
Yeah, I had the same thing. Yeah, I know.
Really? Yeah. I was the older one out there because my parents were like Church of England, right? You know, Protestant or whatever. So I was the only kid at the school there that wasn't Catholic, which was like freaking weird. Anyway, so that was a side story. But anyway, so my first experience was like the squeaky trolley being wheeled down the corridor. You hear the wheels squeaking, and you hear that noise. That meant like the BBC Micro was coming. I was like, oh, yes. Squeak, squeak. And I was like, that squeaky noise meant, oh, it's Granny's garden time. Yes. So that was my first experience, was the BBC Micro. So it was Granny's garden, or it was this terrible like farming simulator game where you had to estimate the amount of crops you had to plant in the field, and it was boring and crap, and even the nuns didn't know what you had to bloody do in it. So that was that. And then it was the Atari 800 XL that my friend had. So I'd spend some summer holidays around my mate's house playing on his Atari 800 XL. He was the only kid I ever knew that had an Atari 800. So that would have been like 1985, 86-ish time. Mm-hmm. I've never known another kid had one, and he had loads of bloody games. So I love that. I love that thing. So, Boulder Dash and Hero and all those like brilliant like early mid-80s games. So I have a lot of love for the Atari 800. So that led me to start pestering my dad and mum and dad for like a computer. So that led me into the Amstrad. So that was my early introduction to like computers, and that got me that eventually led to my 464 basically. And that's the start of my journey.
So
this is originally, I take it you mean, when I was a kid?
Originally, and also
What?
when you got back into it, if you want. I mean, we all did both when we initially did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Probably not. The old grandstand was sort of where it all started for me. That thing.
Yeah.
You'll all be familiar with these things, the old pong clones.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
My auntie brought one of them back from. I think she brought it back from Germany, and initially she lent it to our family, and we just absolutely loved that thing. And we all played it all the time. And then she said, "Right, you can keep that." So we just played that. You wouldn't believe how much use we had out of that thing. And then one Christmas, I think it was, Dad got us as a family computer because we didn't have much money back then, and he got us the old TI-99, which I think you can see it. Yeah, it is in the screen there. Yeah, Texas Instruments TI-99. There's that little baby there. Not the original one, sadly. I wish I still had our actual one, but yeah, that's a rebought one. And I was asking him about this the other day because I never actually knew how he got into that in the first place. But somebody that he worked with, they were going to buy one because he was a builder back then. And one of his workmates was going to buy a TI-99 for himself. And he'd been telling him all about it in this shop in Honiton where they sold them, which is sort of close to where we used to live. And but this chap ended up buying some sort of Apple computer. I don't know what that would have been. And Dad thought, oh, that sounds quite good because there was a good deal on the TI-99 apparently. So so he went and got that and got it for all of us lot. And we absolutely loved it. I mean, it was a great computer. I didn't realise it was sort of a seldom seen computer in this country, to be honest, until recent years. But we absolutely loved it.
I don't know anybody who had one growing up. I mean,
no,
a lot of the games you've been showing, a lot of them you've been showing in videos, I'd never seen before. Not on a TI-99 anyway. But it looks good. Like they do look really good.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I think it's the nicest looking system there is out of all of the 8 bits. I mean, you've got the nice metal fascia and that on it. They did actually do another version of it later on, a sort of a cost-cutting one, which was more like a sort of standard
for me,
computer.
It's not even just the system; it's the games as well. The games look good.
The games are great. Yeah, they're really good. Well, funny enough, you asked me about it and said, was that the first 16-bit system? Which it was, but I didn't even know it was 16-bit until you asked me that question, because bits didn't mean anything to me back then. So as far as I was concerned, it was just sort of a computer. But we did used to type the games in on it as well. And I mean, really, the keyboard layout is really kooky on it. But we'd sit down and spend the whole evening typing in a game, and no way of saving it. We'd just play it, and probably about half an hour by the time we typed it all in, got it, corrected it all, and then switch it off and start again the next night. But yeah, the a lot of the arcade conversions are brilliant on it. But yeah, I just don't think it really had the support, to be honest. Otherwise, it would have probably done better than a lot of the ones which came later. But they made some strange decisions with the old Texas Instruments.
So I'm thinking Texas Instruments must be an American company, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So they're mainly known for calculators, mainly, aren't they?
That's right, because they had a battle with. Sorry.
So did they make them in America, and how well did they do if they did?
They made them in America. Some of them got made in France, I think. Some of them got made in Italy. But this one, I was telling somebody about this recently. This particular one, when I rebought it, which is what got me back into micros as well, because I started getting nostalgia for the old game. So I wanted to sort of get back into where I began, really. So I rebought it. But the only country that got a SCART cable for it was in France, and the SCART cables were made in Italy, but the Italy market didn't get the SCART cable. So
didn't the French invent SCART? Didn't it come from them?
Yeah, I think it did the early concept.
But like, I'm just wondering how well, with Texas being an American company, I'm just wondering how well it done in America. Do you know? Was it a big seller, or was it like nowhere in the market?
They won the computer war with Commodore. The calculator war with them.
Won it.
They won the sort of calculator war with.
Calculator war. I was going to say.
Yeah, the calculator war. And then when it came to the computers, basically Commodore got their own back and sort of took over the market with that one. So they sort of lost out there. And I think that's when they just pretty much abandoned it.
Right. So it is something for you guys.
Is it? Commodore calculator, nice.
So
This
cast
is
your minds
mine.
back. Cast your minds back. Do you remember something called Little Professor that was
Yeah.
made by? Yeah, that was Texas Instruments, wasn't it?
My sister had that.
Yeah.
What's Little Professor? What is that?
It was like a yellow calculator that used to put cards in or something. You had to like.
No. That was the later ones. The first ones you didn't have the cards, so you had different little games. Like it was basically like it would ask you questions like maths
Not maths questions, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then the later ones, you had cards that went into it, and you could do more with the later ones. But I'm thinking of the very first ones that come about. But yeah, they were Texas Instruments, weren't they? They were. So yeah, really good. It was just you talking about it when we was talking about calculators. It reminded me of that because I think you had one in your shop, didn't you, Scott? Not so long back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, the old Texas Instruments. They what I didn't realise is the little shop we used to go in Honiton. I think they were called Parco Electronics or Parco Electrics, and I think they were one of the main ones in this country for the TI-99. So I guess maybe that's why you didn't see them too many other places. I think they did sell them in sort of Argos and the likes for a brief time, but yeah, we used to go in this little shop, and it was sort of, you know, those old school shops where you go upstairs and the floor was always wobbly. You could kind of, as you were walking around, you could it kind of felt unstable. It's one of those sort of tight places, almost like a little loft conversion. And they used to have all the games laid out on a table. There were only two guys in there, but they were pretty good. They used to sort of give you advice on what was decent and what was rubbish. And
so what got you into the Spectrum then, Tetley? Because I know you're a big fan of the Spectrum as well. So when did that come along?
Love the Spectrum. Yeah, that's my biggest sort of passion really, is Spectrum. And I got into it actually. It was kind of by surprise because it was a friend of mine. I think I did a video on it, a game called Scuba Dive by Duro Software.
Yeah, I remember that.
Played that one. Yeah, well, I went round. I used to go to Army Cadets at the time, and a sort of friend of mine that I was going to that with, he invited me back to his place once after Cadets. I went up there, and his brother was sat there playing Scuba Dive on his rubber key 48K Spectrum. And I was just in awe of it, because although graphically it wasn't amazing, just the sort of sheer depth of, well, to pardon the pun, but you know what I mean? The sort of mystique and everything of that sort of diving down into all those caves and everything. I was just absolutely stunned by it. And I sat down with him, played that game, played a couple of others, and I just thought, that's it. I've got to have this system. And that was the first computer I actually sort of bought for myself. So I got home straight away. I started saving. I thought, I'm going to save up and buy myself one of them speckies. And by the time I had enough money, it took me some time because it's like back then. I think I used to get about £2 a week pocket money. So we used to be able to earn a bit of money from like washing a car and stuff like that. We had our pocket money, but then we had other sort of optional money we could earn from doing different jobs like mowing a lawn and such likes. And, when I say by the time I had enough money, I had the +2A had just come out, so that was what I bought. And loved it. Absolutely loved it. Me and my best mate just played that so much. We played to death out of it, really, that computer.
Well, it's just the best micro, isn't it?
It was. That's got the most fond memories for me. And I've owned loads of stuff since. And he had all like the Sega Master System and Sega Mega Drive. I had a SNES in that later on, but it's always a Specky was the sort of best one out of the lot for me.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to drop you guys into the deep end a little bit. Because first topic, when I've got new people on, is always what got you into micros, because it's always good to hear people's stories. Everybody's stories are different, and especially mine, for example. I mean, my one was I ended up with a C64 for a very cheap price, and there's very good likelihood that it was burgled from somebody's house. So there's always an interesting story between. Yeah, seriously, the guy got put away a few months later. It was a friend of mine's dad. So so there's always an interesting, colourful story. I find everybody's different. So I guess what I'm asking, James, do you want to go first? What got you into micros?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm a brother, my elder brother and my younger brother. So I'm a brother of three, and my eldest brother had an Amstrad CBC 464. His best mate had a Spectrum, and his mate had a Commodore. So it's a case of whenever they released all the games, we used to go around there and check all the different versions. So on the back of the cases, it's like, It's the Spectrum one, so we had a look at that. And then because it was passed down by generations, I got my brother's Amstrad and all the games. So the Hit Squads, the not Commodores, the Codemasters, everything, the budget range games, Amstrad Actions. So I first started to get the Amstrad Action magazine. So when it comes to the cover tape, so playing Dizzy 1 for the first time on number 1, then Total Recall as well. That was a really cool game on there.
Yeah.
But that's what got me into it, just because my brother passed it down. So I was playing games like Costa Capers and Rolling Thunder and Narc and all those cool games. And I just loved how,
that's a brutal game, that is.
Yeah, I just loved all the different boxes as well. So you had like the small cardboard ones and the clamshell smaller ones as well, and like the plastic ones and the small cassette ones. But so every time when I was at school, I used to finish at lunchtime or during a session when we had some time off. There was a shop in Barking where I'm from. So I'm originally from Dagenham. But I used to go to Barking School, so Eastbury, and there was a shop there called Radio 88. And so they used to have all these cassettes, so kind of like how HMV is now, where you see the big posters that are on those things where you look through the film posters. They had all of them with cassettes, like Amstrad cassettes. So you just looked through them and got my games from there and the budget range ones. But yeah, I used to love it. So every day, looking at all the different games and then saving up pocket money after a paper round and just buying the next game. And that's how I got into it. My brother had it, so I started the collection after him.
Sorry, I've just seen a comment from Chef. Have you seen this comment? Yeah.
Oh, Burt Baccarat. No, but that's Paul Young. I went to see Paul Young last night. He signed it, that vinyl. But Burt Baccarat, no, it's not him. Is he passed away now, Burt Baccarat? So if it was, I think he has. I keep that sealed. I think he only recently passed away. If it was who I'm thinking of, or was it somebody else from that sort of era? Like
I think he has passed.
Has he passed?
Such a random comment that came up. That's why I got a little bit distracted when I saw it.
Normally, if I'm on a stream, he'll just comment about something in the background, like a kiosk or something that I've got. But it's not. Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah. Alex, what's your story? What got you into micros?
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to James, although mine wasn't passed down. So my it was a work colleague of my dad's, and they were getting rid of an Amstrad CPC 6128 with 80 cassette games, about 20 big box games, but like disc games as well. And from there, that's kind of where my passion for micros really started. I do have a Commodore 64 now, Spectrum, all that good stuff, but my love still lands with the Amstrad, I'm afraid. Not everyone loves the Amstrad. Probably a bit dodgy, yeah. But yeah, no, games like Head Over Heels, a game called Freddy Hardest is a really good side-scroller. The Batman isometric game, I love isometric games, so that's kind of where the love for that started. Turbo Outrun on the Amstrad was great. Although you play it now and it's like, it hasn't aged well. Controls terribly. But yeah, it's something about the style on the Amstrad. It's the colors. It's also iconic. You know when it's an Amstrad game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all started there from just literally my dad bought one home. It was our first thing ever. We hadn't had a games console up until that point. So that's literally where my gaming journey started. So yeah, it was the Amstrad.
Yeah, I've recently acquired a CPC 464, and I know what you mean. It's the bright colours, right?
Yeah,
they're very bright, aren't they, on the Amstrad?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's got its own identity. You know, it's like the Spectrum and the Commodore. Really, they kind of all have their own look and feel.
Yeah.
And like you said, Amstrad, the graphics are just so bright, the colours are so bright, but it's indistinguishable, or is that the word? Distinguishable or you know what I mean? You know it's Amstrad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I was a Commodore kid back in the day, but last year I did have one Spectrum and I had loads of problems with that, and then I ended up getting one off of Sega Zombie. And then literally within the last few months, I picked up an Amstrad. So I do have the 3 main ones. And I've got an Acorn as well. I got an Electron because I remember playing on one of them as a kid. So yeah, they you're right. They do all have their own thing. There is, C64 is your sound. Spectrum, I'd say, is your playability. Amstrad is your colours. If you was to break it down, I would say. I'm just thinking Electron. What would the Electrons thing be, though? I don't know. Because, that's got bright colours too, hasn't it?
Yeah.
That's one I'll have to think about. But, yeah, you are right. They do definitely have their own little things.
Yeah.